This is the September 2022 EAB meeting. We just had the Pledge of Allegiance, and we just approved the minute of the August minutes with a motion by Bill and a second by Andrew Conboy. So moving on to item 3. So we did, okay, I just included kind of a record, even though this has not changed, just kind of, keeping us aware. So that the last thing we have in our study was the July mailing. We have Ben drafted the business communication and the apartments communication. At the September workshop meeting, I did ask for approval for those both to be initiated. Ben has followed up, at least an initial response was they're still about to work on it, or will be working on it. Maybe it's, what do you think, Ben? Should we wait another few days or to follow up?
I think that's a good idea to follow up in about a week.
Yep. And then we're still kind of looking to see whether the township newsletter article, I'm pretty confident the article will be there. The question was whether the link to the survey form will have been included, because the article is based on the press release, and the press release did not have a link to the survey. So we were hoping that, I sent a subsequent email to Karen Weiss asking if we could have the survey link added to the newsletter. So we'll have to find out if that made it or not. Mike,
On that note,
see you. We're glad to see you.
Hey, sorry, I'm a little bit late here.
Not all. Yeah, Ben.
hey, Mike, I just wanted to jump in on that subject and say that the fall newsletter was posted on the website.
Has anybody reviewed the article yet to see if we made it, or we got our survey link in there?
Yeah, yes, the link is in there. I'm looking at it now. There's a link to our communication, which includes the link to the survey. So it's 2 clicks away, but it's in there.
Excellent, excellent. And can you tell when the posting was put on the website?
It's not clear, just looking at it, when the newsletter was made available on the website.
That's fine. That's fine. It's just nice that we got the survey. So now I guess, okay, so that's why, because over the weekend, I had looked at the survey and there was only 109 in there. So I hadn't thought that the newsletter had been published yet. So, I don't think we needed to do another analysis until we got feedback from the newsletter. So that's why I was thinking that it had to be coming up fairly soon. So, but by October, we can take a look at the survey, see how many more responses we have, hopefully. And then if we have the business mailing accomplished, we would have input from the business survey responses. So Ben, when was your last query about that communication?
It was about a week ago on the 12th.
And so today's eight days later. I'd say that's a good week. So I would say, if you don't mind, maybe Thursday, send an email and just ask maybe when they predict they'll be able to schedule it. How's that?
Yep. Yeah, I can do that.
Good. So that's making progress. There'll be another Southeast PA single-use plastic regional meeting coming up the second week in October. So each of the 13 or so munis that have been slowly making progress on their own forms of the ordinance will report as to what their next steps are. So I'll just mention that we actually, that Tuesday I might be out of town. So is there anybody that would be willing to attend that quarter, or it's about every two months or so. I think it's going to be on Tuesday, the 11th at 7 o'clock. Is there anybody to be willing to attend that for us?
I'm looking at my calendar and I have a conflict on that date.
It's about an hour to an hour and 20-minute meeting, just a chance for us to hear what the other townships are doing, and also they'll ask us for a report as to where we are in our progress. So if the other of you can check your calendars for the 11th and see if you're willing to volunteer, that would be helpful. And actually, that just brings up that the next EAB meeting, I'm going to be out those 2 weeks. So Andy Kutronic is going to, as the vice chair, is going to take over or run the meeting for us on the 18th. So I think it would just be, the survey results that we've received, and see if we're ready to process those responses, if we get any business responses, and if we get, a certain number of additional, now that let's say the newsletter went out this weekend, so that'll give us a month of responses from that newsletter. So I would say that would be a reasonable target to just go ahead and process the survey results. So if you want to look at the survey results during that week, and then have a status of what those results look like on the meeting of the 18th, and then we could make a proposal to go to council workshop on Monday the 5th with that report, and then ask about next steps to present the ordinance. We could say something to the effect, we believe with our feedback that we received, we don't see any showstoppers as to why we shouldn't go forward. This was mainly done to inform our community, and we feel that with the 2 sewer mailings to residences, the township newsletter, and then the mailing to apartments and businesses, that we've reached out as well as we can, and feel ready to recommend that this ordinance be brought up for public presentation and eventual adoption. And maybe at that November presentation, we would also ask that they have the ordinance reviewed by the solicitor, so that would be part of that request, would be to say, we're ready to go forward with the ordinance. We have all this feedback. There are no showstoppers. We feel we've reached as far into the community as we can. There's enough awareness. We recommend the solicitor review it, the public meeting be scheduled, and if there's no issues with that, then to go ahead and adopt it the following month. Does that sound like a reasonable presentation for the 5th?
And no objections here.
Yeah, I think so.
Good. We'll see how well we do with it. And then the quarterly meeting on the, I guess I'll put that in here just to add to it, is that we've got the the October 11th Southeast PA SUP meeting. And so we can see where other munis are on their ability to be ready to make it, adopt it. If we're fortunate, we'll have a few co-munis working on it. So let's say, we present this proposal at the November workshop. The solicitor will probably, be asked to look at it during November. Doubtful we would have the public meeting in December. So the earliest the public meeting would be January. And then if things sound reasonable, then, the earliest they could adopt it would be February. So that might be a kind of a tentative process, but definitely would be based on their ability to feel comfortable going forward. I think, the feedback we got from the first sets of presentations to council where they just didn't want the public to be surprised, caught off guard, uninformed, this was something you slipped in on us without us really knowing. But without direct emails for all our residents, we aren't that type of township that has a notification system that would go out to every resident. I think, we've done as well as we can. Do you guys see any holes in our outreach that we've attempted?
No, I think we've been pretty courteous asking for people's opinion.
Yeah, did I tell you this story last month? I was at the deli over at, it's called, I think it's called, what's it called? Daddy's Deli, maybe? No, that's over on near Plymouth Road. It was the one in Conshohocken down there on Caldwell Lane, down at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I was picking up a sandwich there last month, and lo and behold, the person in front of me says, I forget how it came up, but says to the cashier, yeah, it's going to be a pain when we have to go without plastic bags. And she said, it sure is. And I didn't want to raise my hand and say, well, we're doing this for all the right causes. So, but anyway, it was just, I can appreciate how businesses that rely on it, it's going to be a little bit of a get used to thing. So. All right, good.
Yeah,
good.
I've heard similar things in line waiting in Giant, and I've just bitten my I've bitten my tongue. I don't want to cause a scene in line trying to convince them otherwise. But yeah, I'm there with my bags, just trying to lead by example. So
yeah, I mean, when I now that I'm starting to make it, get into the habit, once I'm into the habit, it's much easier to just be ready for it. I think we just got so used to relying on using the store bags that we just just didn't become habit. But hopefully we're gonna find that our fellow citizens will adapt as smoothly as we are.
Yeah, I have to say I was in New Jersey the other week, and I went to a Wawa and I got a bunch of stuff, and I walked up to the front cashier and checked out, and then the cashier was like, thank you, have a good day, and then started taking the stuff from the other one. I'm like, well, I have all this stuff here, what am I going to do with it? And I remembered that New Jersey doesn't have plastic bags anymore. So that was like a moment of getting used to it for me. Meanwhile, nobody else in the store batted an eye. They're just like, yeah, that's what it's like in New Jersey. We're used to it. So it's a good reflection on how quickly change can become used to it.
yeah, the same thing happened to me at the Christmas last year in New Jersey. I was buying all this food for dinner or something one night, so I had a whole full load of stuff and I know where to put it. So I was putting stuff in my car just piecemeal, So but it was kind of funny, but I forgot that they didn't have bags. So I know plastic straws either.
Yeah, and actually at the maybe it's a July workshop, actually, Chris Monero, or no, yeah, our chair said that he was in Jersey and went into a store without a bag and realized he had to carry his sub out, without a bag. So he said it's a matter of getting used to it. So I'm sure we will. Cool. So then in the September meeting, just a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I did ask or present the funding there wasn't a lot of positive response to our request. You know, I think they were kind of like politely listening, but I don't think this is the top of the priority to start up the trail system. So I think we can keep advocating for it. The October 12th Pico Green Region grant, though, I think it's worth asking for the $10,000. So I think if we can be prepared to say we'll assist the township in getting that application together, if you're willing to grant us, grant the, or as a township, be willing to put up the $10,000. I'd like to go back to the October workshop, which would be Monday the 3rd, and ask for that $10,000 just to see whether we get approval or not. Because if we do, that would be the 3rd. We'd have to have the application submitted by the following Wednesday. And by looking at a previous application, it looks like they like to have a resolution that's approved for the expenditure of the money. So if we get approval on the 3rd, then they can make public the resolution on the 10th, and we can still get it together by the 12th. Andrew Comboy offered to start a draft for us. Andrew, have you had any chance to look at that?
Yeah, I created an account for the natural lands where you apply for grant, and I started filling it out, but it doesn't save your progress. So I put it in started a separate like Google Doc with everything. But I just wanted to ask about a couple things. I'll do my best, but I may have to defer to you guys for this, and I'll look at our previous, make it similar to our previous applications for the trails. But there are parts of the grant form that asks about the budget that we're requesting, if we're getting matching funds, any project partners, timeline, and that kind of stuff. So I guess I don't know those details specifically, but I guess that's what you were just saying with getting approval on the 3rd.
Right. So I think we could apply for the total. So I guess the question is, does the budget include the grant award? If it's the award, then it's the $20,000. If it's the amount we put up, it's the 10,000. So I guess it's a question on how it's worded. Maybe the two previous trail applications we had, I believe, were both for $10,000. So maybe you could look at whether they included that statement of $10,000. I know at least the one had $20,000 total. So I think you could make the budget be the double of the 10,000. And that would be to hire a trail planner who would advise us on a starting segment, but we wouldn't use the whole funds for the trail planner. We would try to split those funds or somehow portion them so that the trail planner would start us with the first segment and give us the recommendations for what the best signage is and safety factors, and then whatever funds are remaining, we would start to build those components of the trail. Or it might lead to identifying how much it will cost to do that portion of the trail, and if we don't have any money to do signage or paint, then maybe it would recommend another grant that we could apply for in 2023 to get those additional funds. The MONCO 2040 grant, which I deleted from here, but the MONCO 2040 grant, which is due March 1st, is like a 15% match. So if we put up $20,000, what do you get? 6.5 times, or 6 times, almost 6.5 times the money. So if we put up $20,000, so we get 6.5 times that, we would get what, 130,000, plus the 20. I don't know. Well, anyway, it would give us a good portion more. So that type of leverage is the type of thing we would go forward with trying to acquire. And that was the second part of the funding proposal, was that we asked for $40,000 to be included in the 2023 budget. So that request could come up if we want to, reinforce our desire. We could go to the budget meetings in October and November to make sure our request gets heard. So yeah, partners, I don't know, Andrew, and the other two trail applications, did you happen to notice whether they had mentioned partners in those?
I haven't really looked through those too closely yet, but if they do, I'll consider adding those in.
Yeah, so I think for the Cross County Trail, which would have been the earlier one, like 2012 or 2013, the county was a partner, and White Marsh Township was a partner. For the Plymouth Road Trail, I don't know if we listed partners, but I think it was pretty much a trail totally within Plymouth Township. It would go from the junction with the Cross County Trail on Butler Pike, and then go to the corner of Butler Pike with Plymouth and Flowertown, turn left on Plymouth, and go to the mall. That I'm not sure if we listed partners. I was not involved in either of those two grant applications. I think at the time, Rick Carbo was able to, request the funds and get that started for us. Maybe back in those days, the township had a grant writer or another person in the staff did it. I don't remember being involved with those applications at all. But I think here in our case, we're offering to start the seed of the grant application, just because we'll be coming up to October 3rd, asking for the funds. And so we're giving the township less time to pull this all together. So the more we can do makes it easier on them if they're willing to tweak it and put in the formalities that we don't know about. Maybe that's something we can. So I think it'll make our case a little more, appealing if we go into the October 3rd request meeting and say, we realize it's only 10 days from now. We'd like to get this application in. They're going to say we have no staff. Nobody's going to be available to do this. And we could say, well, we've started a draft. We're willing to do as much of it as we can. We would just like somebody in the township to look it over and make sure we didn't miss something. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah. Is there anywhere I could learn more about the specifics of which trail we're trying to build here, or which trail we're getting funding for? Like, where can I learn more about this for the?
Yeah, so I think maybe I should have included our previous so I didn't do a very good job of moving it into old business, but I thought, and maybe I didn't include it in last month's. Oh, wait, here we go. Oh, no, that was just an old application, or that was just the link to the. So yeah, I didn't do a very, very good job of that. I think the only would be the comprehensive plan where we have the section on the trail network. And I think our okay, so our proposal was, here it is. This is, I'll send this to you, Andrew. This would be on the connection from the community center to the Plymouth Mall. And the comprehensive plan here, page 78, you can find the map with the trail network proposal. So this would probably be the best starting point.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, appreciate your taking a look at that for us. Thanks. Okay, anything else on trails? I think part of what I felt was the reaction from council is, even though our presentation put in some, health benefits and other benefits for the township in terms of increasing value of property and reduced transportation need, reducing congestion, I think that those, what do you call it, aren't maybe something that you would measure as a value to the township at a very, what do you call it, comparative value to something that you have to make a more financial investment in. So is there a way to help advocate for those health benefits, or I guess to be a little bit more persuasive or advocacy? I mean, maybe our pitch or our method is weak, or it's just that those benefits aren't appreciated by others. So do you guys have any thoughts on any of that?
I'm hearing like, do we have a way to, maybe not the quantify is not the right word, but qualify the benefits of this particular project in terms of the benefit afforded to the township residents?
Right. That the value to be received by a $40,000 or $20,000 or $10,000, it's only a $10,000 investment by the township, that the value to be received eventually would be greater than the $10,000 that was expended. And then, they could say, well, it's not going to be enough to do a trail. Yeah, I got $10,000 to start. We get maybe, a short segment started, but it's going to take, hundreds of thousands of dollars, even, more, to really build out the whole network. So why should we move forward with just a start, a minor start? Shouldn't we wait until we can do it all in a big bang or something like that, which I don't think would ever happen. So I guess I was trying to present the value to people's health and the welfare and the desirability of Plymouth being more appealing for people who would have access to a network of trails that they could get somewhere without having to use a car.
I would say that I can think of many reasons we could use to provide benefits for a project like this, like you just mentioned, Bill. And if we wanted to develop them further, I'm sure that's something we could work on.
Yep.
But we're not, I just want to make sure we're not looking to put numbers or anything like dollar values. This is a qualitative study.
Yeah, so the references I use for the presentation and the workshop was that we have a bike Monco plan that was developed in 2018. And then Monco just published a return on environment study, which was just published in March this year. Both of them point out, each of them, I should say, point out the value in different ways. The bike Monco speaks more to the health and well-being aspect of things. The return on environment actually goes as far as quantifying a result of being near open space. So they describe it as open space. So open space would be any park, trail, preserve, etc., that would be within a certain distance of people's homes. And they found that based on the distance to people's homes, that the value of those properties increased based on the accessibility of those open space resources. So I think that's where trying to show that or help council understand how that could benefit the township long-term could be beneficial. And I think maybe the first time we pitched it, that's such a new concept that if you're haven't been thinking that way and council has everything else to be, concerned about, and maybe this would not necessarily strike their awareness as being of significance, but so that's where I think maybe having different ways of presenting it could be maybe more persuasive. So maybe one of you guys would like to take a shot at giving the pitch to the council rather than let me, continue to, be the one presenting and I'd be glad to have a new voice, with new passion or new enthusiasm, share some of our goals and targets. All right, well, if you guys think of anything that would help us in any of that, definitely keep it in mind so we can continue that. Andrew, I recall we talked about tree planting for the fall. I guess we're still on track for November 19th.
Yeah, we got approval from Rick to plant. We're doing a smaller planting this time. It's 6 trees at Black Horse Park, just off of Belvoir Road there on School Lane. It's a nice little park. It's used by nearby residents, but yeah, we're planning to plant 6 trees there, and they recently upgraded the water fountain there that has a faucet attachment, so it will be easy for easy access to watering. But we just have to come up with a plan for watering, finding volunteers, or hopefully gauging interest from nearby residents if they're interested in watering. But I live right up the street, and we have one other person who's on board to help water. So hopefully, with that help, we can water them sufficiently over the first year or 2.
Now is the I believe did I read that is the planning day of the 19th, or are we receiving them the prior week for planning on the 19th? Is that the idea?
Yeah, let me double check right now. So the tree planting for Plymouth will be on Sunday, November 20th at 9:30 a.m. And we'll meet at Black Horse Park. We get the trees probably the Wednesday or Thursday before. So Thursday the 18th, 17th, or Thursday the 17th, I think we get the trees.
And did you say we meet at 9 a.m.?
9:30 a.m. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too long since there's only 6, and we'll see if Rick is able to dig the holes for us ahead of time again.
That was a big savings last time, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was great.
Really saved us some strain and pain.
Yep.
Terrific. Well, that sounds exciting. I saw you also sent out an email. Was it today for a White Marsh planting? Was it?
Yeah, this Sunday we're planting 3 new trees at White Marsh at Miles Park. So we have a bunch of events planned for the fall, and I wanted to talk to Rick about planting at if you're all familiar with JFK Park. There's a wooded section there that could use some invasive removal and some new trees. So we might put some of our trees that we grow in there. But that would be I'd have to ask Rick first. I don't think he would have any issues with that, since it's not really a popular location, but it is the township's largest remaining section of forest, so I think it deserves a little bit of care.
And I'm sorry, where was that again? Sorry, where was that?
That was JFK Park. There's a wooded section next to the park that kind of extends back behind homes on Belvar Road, and yeah, it goes all the way up towards Sandy Hill Road.
Nice. Oh, I know in the past, when you first visited with us, we talked about possibly putting a similar web page or access point for volunteers that might be interested in tree. So is that something, you have a model that you could suggest we just add to our EAB page?
Yes, and I have that on my to-do list. I just haven't got
No,
it yet.
That's fine. I just wanted to remember if we had spoken about it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So draft web or EAB page edition. What do you call us? Tree tenders, tree volunteers, tree support?
Yeah, tree volunteers or stewards.
Nice, thanks. So anything else on trees or landscaping or horticulture in Plymouth? So there was a on the clean energy front, the Ready 400, and there's now a new page that's resulted out of all the work that's occurred over the last 4 or 5 years, called PA Clean Energy .com, I think. So this is a site that resulted from all the work that's been occurring from all the Ready 400 teams the last 4 years, and it's kind of a repository of all of that work in different ways. So there's a list of the munis that have made resolutions. There's some list of plans, energy transition plans and climate action plans that have been developed. And then we just added recently a library that resulted out of the Clean Energy Strategic Planning Series. So for 2 years, from August 2020 through just this last May, we ran sessions for 23 townships that were, or munis that were represented by volunteers. And we learned together how to create energy transition plans or to do advocacy for actions on transition. So that library is been recently updated with the results from all of that work. So there's some examples, there are recordings from different speakers that were able to come and give us their perspective, and different subjects on solar EVs, et cetera, et cetera. And then we've got resources that we use to study independently of the speakers that we met during the session. So we did our own research and went out and looked at transition plans by other states, cities, et cetera, just to give us examples. And then we've got a kind of a resource catalog. So this is a list of all of the session recordings that we had during the 2 years and their presentations and any artifacts of resource documents. So I would encourage you, when you get a chance, to maybe take a look, browse it, and see what else is in there. What they've asked is that this site now be managed by EACs or munis that want to be part of this clean energy direction. So each EAC is invited to become a, what do they call it, a kind of a steering committee representative. So as any muni or volunteer finds resources or comes up with presentations, let's say Plymouth as a EAC, we go out, we start doing community outreach to talk to our community stakeholders about how to create transition plans for their own institutions. We can then share those artifacts of training artifacts that we used, our public meetings, our presentations, our public outreach emails, things like that. So that could be another representation that we'll add here. So I think, part of these examples here came out of Westchester had started this education series for their residents, primarily to start, and then they're going to start working on businesses. But those types of resources, so that we don't all have to reinvent the wheel as we work on that transition. So just wanted to let you know about this. I'll put it in the chat, and we'll maybe include it in the minutes if you could, Ben.
Sure.
Just for posterity. So as a result of that, there were these Energy Ed webinars, and actually the Energy Ed webinars have been held because they started with Chester County a few years ago, and I don't know if my shortcut is working. So since I'm on my parents' computer, I'm not on my computer. So let me see if I can find Pennsylvania chapter. Is that going to get me closer? Southeastern, there we go. So we've kind of put this category under clean energy. There's the county teams that have been working on this. The Energy Ed page is where we've been hosting these recordings over the years. So they started in 2019, and it's really just a set of topics that anybody can propose to look at what would help us learn more about transitioning to clean energy. So a couple of months ago, June, we had a electric refuse truck that's being developed with Mack Truck, and a couple of townships showed interest in looking at the first prototype. It's actually in use in New York. I forget whether it's Brooklyn. They're doing some benchmarking and seeing that it meets the regular route use. We also had one recently on the bills that have come out with the incentives for clean energy. And this is Brandon Ford, is the assistant manager at Springfield Township, Montgomery County. So he did a really nice presentation on some of the incentives we might be able to make out of the IRA. So that's something that I think we can start to look at over the next period of time, is to see where could we start to apply for funds that we could use to help us as we go forward in our transition to clean energy. And then this one was just held last week, talking about on-site solar and its feasibility for municipalities, schools, and nonprofits. Because typically in the past, the federal tax credit was only applicable to people who pay tax bills. So since munis, nonprofits, and schools don't, they were kind of limited in taking advantage of those incentives. But with the IRA bill, there's a direct credit clause in there that I believe will allow munis to receive. And this year it's gone up to 30%. So it's actually even more appealing for those entities to start considering solar. And the interesting one here is that this West Rock Hill Township in Bucks County, it's a smaller township, maybe 4,000 to 6,000 people. I can't remember, but they were able to build a ground mount system outside their muni building that actually covers all of their electricity needs for the whole municipal operation. So it runs their township building, their electric and traffic, or street and traffic lights across the township, as well as their water pumps and their electric charging station for the couple EV spots that they have in the park. And they were able to achieve that because virtual net metering allows you, if you're within a 2-mile radius, all your accounts are within 2-mile radius, you can network them together and make use of that capability to have supply electricity for all of that 2-mile area. So anyway, so that's a good presentation. So that's worth looking at, because it does show that they made a financial decision that it was going to be more beneficial to their township to run solar and gain by the payback. And that was even before they did this a year ago, before this incentive. So now that the incentive is in place, it's even more appealing. So this is a useful thing that we could look at to see, when we want to make a presentation to council for considering solar.
Bill,
Yeah,
with the IRA, have you seen anything on, I don't know, any way we could maybe get some matching funds for the geothermal heat pump being installed at the township building?
that's a really good question. Andy, thanks for suggesting that. No, I did not think to take a look at that, but I like what you're thinking. And we find incentives.
I mean, I think there's incentives there for electrification of heat. Like you said, I don't know how it applies to municipalities and so forth, how they would get the funding, but
Yeah,
definitely interesting in looking at it.
I think it would definitely be worth accessing. I'll just mention the PA Clean Energy that we looked at. Yeah, good observations. I think you're right. Anything we can find in the IRA bill to support our mission to help our environmental footprint would be a terrific advantage. So if you hear of anything, I'll keep asking and see if we can find something that would be applicable to what we want to do. Thanks, good ideas. So I don't think we have anything going on on the Facebook or the EAB page, except the future will add the tree aspect. There's one other topic I thought of. Anybody else have any other things they'd like to suggest we look at?
Nothing for me at this time.
So the other thing I realized as I was looking at the return on environment report, and actually I I apologize, I didn't send out the notice of that in March when it came out, but I was actually part of the citizen steering committee that was involved in that. I didn't make a lot of contributions because I don't have a lot of background on it, but I did ask a few questions. So what I discovered though is that several municipalities have added, I forget what it's called, an open space, or it's a portion of their tax bill goes to open space. So White Marsh is an example. White Marsh has a small portion of their tax bill is going into this open space fund. And last year, maybe they actually acquired a property on Butler Pike for the township. There was a developer who had originally proposed townhouses behind the Abolition Hall on Butler Pike, and there was this residential property that was included in that. Now the townhome proposal by the developer got shut down at the White Marsh, public meetings because so many people were opposed to this right next to Abolition Hall. But as a result, the township went ahead and acquired this individual property. So it's right next to the, what's that church that's on Butler Pike next to the medical center? Jehovah's Witnesses, right? There's a church there. And this residential property was right next to it. Well, it turns out now that the White Marsh has acquired that property, it would provide an ideal crossing point to go from Plymouth across Butler Pike into White Marsh and then weave through some of the open space that's behind the medical building complex and then get over to Flowertown. But they were able to do that because they had this designated fund for open space. So I'm thinking because Plymouth has a little bit of a more conservative approach to not raising taxes, that it's unlikely that we're going to be able to fund much or get much approval for our initiatives just because we'll be kind of, what do you call it, competing with all of the other township priorities, staffing, equipment, vehicle replacement, things like that. So if we could propose that they consider adding a open space fund and show the advantages, as I mentioned prior to the fact that open space ends up increasing the benefits to the township, home values, health, etc., then maybe we could see if they'd be willing to consider something like that. It can be a very small portion, so it's not a significant addition, but of course, no one likes to see any new taxes, and I'm sure there would be a lot of debate about it. But I think it's worth researching and seeing how it might benefit us, because otherwise I just don't see our trail plan moving very forward at a very significant pace. So any thoughts or reactions to that initial idea?
I may imagine they'd only be willing to put a very small portion, like you said, but to get something started would be good. I just don't know, we don't have too much open space in the township, right? So I don't know what we'd be buying up, but yeah, I've seen that in a few different townships, so it's nice, be a nice
And hopefully
idea.
you could define it to, yeah, and hopefully you could define it to include the development of a trail system even on existing space. So I'm hoping it could be written such that it would mean increasing the value of protected space. You know, the return on environment calls it protected open space. And even though a trail might not be considered open space in the literal sense, when you think of it as being a kind of a lane of recreational access through the township, you know, I'm almost wondering if you can stretch it to be considered open space, because it's now a public access way. You know, that's a good question. Well, that's just something we could do some research on. So, any other comments tonight? Or thoughts? Are we on the right direction? Is there anything that you guys would like to add to our list of dreams over the next year? What's your gut feel? Are we on the right track?
I was wondering about reaching out outside this group and seeing what residents would be interested in us pursuing, or even council. But we could keep it small and just do our Facebook, page followers, which I know is small, but obviously those are the ones that are interested in what we've got going on, and might like to have some voice. It might even motivate them to get even more involved if they have a voice in what we're pursuing. So I don't know, we don't need to jump right on it, but maybe try to get something for the end of the year or something, and then get some results that we could have in January, where we're kind of talking about our 2023 activity.
Yeah. One aspect of that is an example is Conshohocken created a Friends of the
Mhm.
EAC volunteer group, and created a nonprofit, so it could be a little bit independent. And they also then set up Conchi EAC, set up subcommittees where what they call them, associate members, non-appointed, can volunteer. So in some sense, then you could have your main board members be the subcommittee chairs, and the associate members could be the volunteers to help fulfill some of those missions. So that'd be another way that we could get more citizen involvement, is to create these subgroups to help us pursue different things. So those are great ideas, Andy. Thanks.
Yeah, I want to jump on that as well. I think I mentioned this a while back, a couple months ago, that I see building some sort of following to be a useful asset for the EAB to have a mailing list. The like Facebook is, I don't know how many people use Facebook anymore. I certainly never open it up in months time. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. And I would imagine a lot of people are also not really in touch with that tool. However, if we can have some sort of more on-demand communication, like a newsletter, we could be able to engage residents in a way where we can start to ask more questions about what residents want to see and how we can better serve them. I think we could also use more engagement to prepare educational nights where we can describe what we're doing, and or maybe we can bring in guest speakers to talk about some of the topics that we're interested in, and then the residents would be interested in. So building that network and that structure, I think is a task that we can add to the list of how can we go about doing that? What are the next steps? What
Yeah.
are some ways we can get that off the ground?
Yep.
But
Yeah.
hearing from that from the Conshohocken EAC, that it seems like they're doing some cool things with that.
Yep. And I
Thanks for
think
sharing
that
that.
that would be good. Yeah, I think maybe that's another piece of it, is that invite Conchi EAC maybe to come make a presentation to present and discuss with us ways to reach. Yep, I like that. And that could be our start of the idea, you know, with these others. I love the idea of a direct access and newsletter, because that would help us start to share our story more often than just the quarterly newsletter. And then we could develop those ideas with them. And also Conchi EAC did approach a few of us, White Marsh, West Norton, and yeah, and a couple of years ago, and suggest that we do some joint educational activities. So rather than running a workshop on spotted lanternflies individually, each of us, that we could do it regionally and have that done by the whole group. So I think that's a great way, and also
Great idea.
network with neighboring.
Yeah, we use MailChimp for Colonial Canopy Trees newsletter, and we every time someone volunteers with us, we get their email and put them on the email list if they're all right with that. And people can sign up on our page to be on our email list. MailChimp is really easy to, you know, it keeps track of all of the people, and you can easily make templates and just send out newsletters. And,
Yeah.
pretty easy.
Yep, I like it. I like it. Really cool. Really cool. There was one other idea that just floated through my mind while we were talking here. Now it's gone. But I'm sure we'll come back someday and we can rumble around on that one too. Great ideas, guys. Thanks. This is really good discussion. I'm sure we'll be looking for enough to do in 2023. Keep us busy. Oh, good. So, you guys, anybody else have any other thoughts? Well, I guess Lynn meeting went overly long, but that's fine. We'll catch her up. The recording is available, so those who weren't able to attend, I'll get the audio out hopefully in a couple days, and can be reviewed. So appreciate this. Andrew, I'll be in touch on the, I think what I'll do is I'll send an email to Karen, our our manager in the morning, just asking if we can come to the October 3rd workshop, and just ask in 5 minutes, if they will authorize the $10,000 match for this October application. But yeah, if you want any other additional input on what you're drafting, don't struggle with it too much. Just, send out an email and say, hey guys, I'm looking for an answer to this question, or what would you write if you were gonna answer this question?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, do we have a motion to, GeekWire, what was this, Mike? Oh, Rivian electric vans. Cool. And this was from this July, because I had heard Amazon had already gone electric. So I guess this is just an update on what they're planning to do. Yeah. Nice. Yep. I think there'll be more and more of this happening now that we've got the additional incentives, especially solar. If you've ever thought about solar for your home, I guess I'll give you one more website is Solarize Southeast PA.
Yeah, sorry, I'm talking to myself on mute here. Yeah, I saw some update for that, the Amazon vans online the other day, and I hadn't even heard of it, so I just figured I'd look it up and share with you guys in case you guys didn't hear about it either.
Yeah, very cool, Mike. Thanks for keeping us informed. Whenever you see anything on that type of stuff, feel free to share it with us. So
Yeah,
I did,
and one other thing I'll add is kind of minor and silly, but I watched Formula One, and Formula One said by 2025 they're going to be using 100% carbon neutral fuels for all their racing. So the way usually things work with Formula One is the technology gets developed, very expensively in F1, and then slowly trickles down to the masses. So usually if they're doing it in F1, it's something we can see, on the horizon for the regular folks. So it's exciting.
that is very cool. Yeah, no, I think there's going to be some good turning points here in the next few years. It sounds like we're starting to see the shift as people, grab onto it. I just brought up, or just put up that page of Solarize Southeast PA just to let you know, and you can share that, Mike, Ben, if you don't mind putting it in the notes in the minutes.
Yep.
So this is for consumers, residences, and small businesses, and it's actually a nonprofit set of volunteers that help advise homeowners on the feasibility of solar. So you don't have to feel intimidated approaching an installer. You can talk to this group and they'll do like a really quick estimate on your feasibility. There's Google Sunroof they use to look at your positioning of your roof, and they'll give you a quick idea of it's of what your financial feasibility would be. So and then there's several groups that are working. We've got a Monco group, but then we've also got surrounding counties that are also looking at it. So now with a 30% incentive, I think hopefully homeowners will find it, more and more appealing. All right, so I think I've exhausted my ideas. So anyone want to motion us to close?
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, second.
Second from Andy. Great. Well, appreciate good chatting with you all, and we'll look forward to our next get together.
Great, thanks, Bill.
everyone.
Great talking
Thanks,
to everyone.
everyone. Yeah,
Sounds
good
great.
talking to
Everyone
you.
have a good month.
Yep, you too. Take care.